Why should MSG, a food additive, be banned by the FDA? My name is Miriam Roulette of Western Governors University, today bringing you a consumer alert. Monosodium glutamate. MSG is short for monosodium glutamate. What is it? It is a highly poisonous toxin that's being added to our foods that we get from the supermarket shelves. In 1968, MSG was found to be dire to our health. It was linked with blood-brain barrier disruption. The blood-brain barrier exists around the brain so that it can protect the brain from toxins. Because if toxins get into the brain, we're in some serious trouble. MSG in 1968 was linked with blood-brain barrier disruption. When we get blood-brain barriers disrupted, we get illnesses. A very critical part of the brain that is highly at risk when we consume MSG is the pituitary gland because it has no blood-brain barrier. Strictly said, if the blood-brain barrier is disrupted, anything in the bloodstream will go straight into the brain. So if blood carries MSG into the brain, we will have illnesses. If we already have illnesses, those illnesses, when they're introduced to MSG, will become eruptive. They will become eruptive and damage any blood-brain barrier that already exists. So you see, MSG has a twofold role in destroying our health. I'd like to show you a simple diagram of the MSG process. Here I have drawn a simple diagram of MSG in the brain. Let me get that thing out of the way. Okay, so we have MSG in the brain. Here is the pituitary gland that I was mentioning earlier. We have an individual here eating MSG, baby foods, soups, gravies. It's in everything almost on the supermarket shelves that we eat. But we have this person eating the MSG here. It enters in through the mouth, goes into the bloodstream, goes up into the pituitary gland, which has no blood-brain barrier. Okay, the pituitary gland has no blood-brain barrier. And if it's not the pituitary gland, it is still hitting our brain. So we go up and then it floods the brain with MSG. MSG then goes out through the nerves of the body, out into our body. And this is what happens. Epileptic seizures, tumors, cancer, growth defects. We have diabetes. See if I can bring this camera up a little bit closer for you. Excuse me. Diabetes. We have migraine headaches, high blood pressure, learning disabilities, lupus, AIDS, dementia. We have autism, Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's and Huntington's disease, episodic violence, obesity, heart attacks, and immune suppression. So you see, MSG is a terrible, terrible toxin, and it should be banned by the FDA immediately. You are probably wondering, why is it that the FDA is letting food manufacturers put this on the shelves in the first place, Miriam? The answer is because the FDA approved manufacturers to put labels of MSG poisoning on food labels in the ingredients only if, or required, only if it was 99% toxic. So we're eating poison and it's accumulating over time, and as it accumulates in our body, it's a toxin that's building up. Then we get these terrible things: high blood pressure, lupus, learning disabilities, diabetes, obesity, an epidemic. Obesity is because it's in the diet foods, it's in the soups, it's in the gravies, it's in most frozen foods. MSG is a taste enhancer. It makes the food taste good. And that's why it's such a multi-million-dollar industry, and that's why the FDA hasn't put an end to this. In conclusion here, I would like to admonish you to prevent your family from being poisoned to death through our food consumption by reading the labels on your ingredients and avoiding them. Any questions?
How can we avoid MSG?
You can avoid MSG by, as I said, reading the labels and knowing some of the names. We have hydrolyzed vegetable protein, whey extract, aspartame, glutamate, gluten, anything that says monosodium glutamate or MSG, it's usually spelled out for you, monosodium glutamate. You don't want to eat those things. Any other questions?
Is there a way to counteract the years of poisoning that has been consumed?
That's a very good question. There actually is. Stop eating MSG, first of all, and start eating broccoli and spinach because it's high in magnesium. Magnesium serves to counteract the poisonous toxins that have been built up for years. So in conclusion, I would like to admonish you to spread the word about monosodium glutamate, protect your friends and family. And if you have any kind of pull with the FDA, maybe you can stop them and tell them, ban MSG. Thank you.